Hey everyone, so this week we're talking about the Western Sudan, and I have a little map here to show you. So it is this area of Africa that we are focusing on, and here are some of the major empires that we'll be looking at this week. So the Western Sudan is often defined as the broad savanna region whose heart is the great arc of the Nile River. The ancient empires were partially Islamicized in the 10th century, like the Bamana. However, many of the people resisted becoming Islamic, and in fact, the groups that we'll be looking at this week did resist. And they preserved their own religion and cultural traditions all the way up into the 20th century. Linguistic borders in the Western Sudan tend to be marked by artistic borders as well, and each language group cultivated its own form and style. So to begin with, we're going to look at the Dogon, the Senefo, and the Burkinabe. And these people, the Burkinabe, speak multiple incomprehensible languages. We have yet to really decipher their language. But the complex linguistic picture is still more complex for the Dogon language. So they speak several dialects, and then the Senefo speak several languages, even within a single village. And the way the languages are divided up within the village is according to the occupation of the person. There are, for example, cultural and historical links between the Senefo and the Burkinabe people and the Mandi. This situation reflects a long history of political decentralization, migration, and interchange among neighboring peoples. And it has led to a great variety of styles and substyles in the art. And we will look at some of them today, or this week. Despite such artistic and linguistic complexity, however, the peoples of Western Sudan share belief systems, economies, and cultural institutions. Dwelling largely in rural towns and villages, they are for the most part farmers, and they are growing subsistence crops. And they're doing this in a rather dry climate of the savanna and the semi-desert Sahel. With the exception of the Mozi, a Muslim Burkinabe people, they have neither king nor any other kind of centralized political system. Their most common building material is clay. Their architecture generally has a sculptural, earthbound quality. Some groups establish their buildings inside and out with visually striking, symbolically rich designs that for the most part are painted by women. Almost all of them focus great attention on masquerade, and they believe that the masquerade aids in transforming the deceased people and to helpful ancestors that then come back and help to have a good harvest, create better soil for farming, and bring better rainfall to the area. Finally, throughout the Western Sudan, as much of the rest of Africa, sculpture and masks are less literal representations of life forms than they are embodiments of complex ideas. Countless altars and shrines throughout the region are dedicated to natural spirits and ancestors that are embodied in wood, metal, and mixed media sculptures. Blacksmiths are often the primary sculptors, and their wives are responsible for other forms of art, especially pottery. Along with other artisan groups such as carvers and weavers, blacksmiths are usually segregated within the community and accorded considerable power. So they really rank up as higher in the society. Running parallel, let me switch the slide here. Hang on. Okay. running parallel to the Niger on the northwest swing through present-day Mali is the Bankina is the Bandi Graha escarpment. Okay, and that's what I'm showing you here. So the Bandi Graha escarpment is this section of Africa where, through tectonic plate movement, the earth has shifted and we have this great cliff that has formed. It's a spectacular cliff, some 125 miles long and up to 2,000 feet at certain areas. For several centuries, the cliff region has been home to the Dogon people. The Dogon were preceded in the area by people known as Telam. The Telam seem to have flourished from about 1000 AD until the arrival of the first Dogon immigrants some 500 years later. So let me show you one of the images here. And one thing we see when we're looking at these two groups of people is that they really, the art is very similar between them, and so sometimes things that are Telam are called Dogon and vice versa. By virtue of an early radiocarbon date, the fragmented sculpture that I'm showing you here, illustrated here, is almost certainly Telam, because we know the date approximately of 11th to the 15th century. The body is simplified, showing an enlarged navel, protruding breasts, and a very large head with a chin, quite a large chin and beard area, widely spaced eyes, and a shelf-like mouth defined otherwise. An insignificant face. It's kind of hard to make out the facial features. So this is made out of wood, and it was most likely used in a shrine, and it could have been used for pouring blood on it, and it might have been then used for some kind of ritual. And we have both hands up in the air, and we believe that they're praying. It's praying most likely for rain. Okay, and so this is a good place. So the first group of people we're going to focus in on are the Dogon. The Dogon immigrated into the Bendi Egraha region mainly in the 15th and 16th century. Oral history traces their origins to the Mandi territories of the southwest. Linguistic and cultural evidence, however, point to the origins in the southeast. Both theories may be correct, as the Dogon may well have multiple origins. Clearly, they share some forms of art with the region as a whole. In early centuries, the Dogon built their villages on the top or in the cliffs of the Bendi Egraha escarpment. And this was a good area because it was like a natural protection then against other groups of people that might invade them, such as the Mozi. But then after the French colonial government established control of the region in the first decade of the 20th century, many Dogon left the cliffs for the more welcoming Seno plains. Today, the Dogon population of nearly 300,000 is dispersed through some 700 villages. Most of them average fewer than 500 people.